سلام. چند ساعت پیش پرتاب آزمایشی چهارم استارشیپ انجام شد. پخش زنده‌اش واقعا فضایی بود. اینجا با هم مرورش میکنیم.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3.
پرتاب با یک موتور کمتر شروع شد که ناراحت کننده است، اما استارشیپ بدون یک موتور هم میتونه کارش رو انجام بده، پس توی بقیه پرتاب تأثیری نداره.
Vehicle is pitching downrange.
All right, 30 seconds into flight, the rumbles are still building here in the Raptor's nest. We're seeing 32 out of 33 engines lit on the Super Heavy right now. Coming up shortly is going to be max Q, that maximum aerodynamic pressure as we go uphill on the vehicle.
Max Q.
All right, we just passed through max Q, so we're going to continue on up. We still have about a minute and 30 seconds until we get to stage separation. Starship now flying faster than the speed of sound. All right, so you got a couple of views. You got some ground trackers in your top camera there. You're looking down from the top of the booster in the bottom left, and then a camera in the top flap of the ship looking back in the bottom right, so getting a couple of different looks as Starship heads uphill. Once we get the hot staging, a lot of things happen all at once simultaneously. We're going to light the engines on the ship, starting with the RVACs first, and then the three center sea level engines. Before we're separated, all of that exhaust gets plumed out the side of the hot stage, and then the ship will separate itself. All but the three center engines on the booster are going to shut down, so the booster never stops its thrust while we go through this hot stage maneuver. After that, the booster is going to do its flip, start heading back, and then the ship will be on its own power on its way to space. So that should be coming up in just about 30 seconds from now. As of right now, still looking in like 32 out of 33 Raptors lit on the booster. And we'll start to see those stagger down. They're going to turn off in banks, so you'll see the lights on the bottom left screen of the engines that are active start to turn off in different groups, and you'll see those three center ones lit.
اینجا بالهای بوستر به یه طرف میچرخن که بلافاصله بعد از جداییش بوستر بچرخه و در مسیر برگشت قرار بگیره. همه موتورهای بوستر خاموش میشن و فقط 3 تاشون روشن باقی میمونن. همزمان شیپ اول موتورهای بیرونی و بعد موتورهای داخلیش رو روشن میکنه و 2 مرحله در اثر روشن شدن موتورهای شیپ از هم جدا میشن. بوستر به سرعت میچرخه و 10 موتور دیگه‌اش رو هم روشن میکنه و با 13 موتور در مسیر برگشت قرار میگیره. بوستر میخواد سرعت افقیش رو تا حد زیادی خنثی کنه و تا جای ممکن به صورت عمودی وارد جو بشه.
Acquisition signal, status.
Ship chamber pressures are nominal.
Ship power and telemetry nominal.
All right, the first stage currently performing the boostback burn. This is expected to last a little over 1 minute. This propels the booster back toward the coast, taking it to a landing in the waters of the Gulf of Mexico. As you can see on your screen in the bottom left-hand corner, we were only using the 13 center engines from here on.
Boostback burn shut down.
Heard confirmation there of good boostback burn shutdown.
Stage 2 tank pressures are nominal.
اینجا حلقه ای که بین 2 مرحله فاصله ایجاد میکنه جدا میشه که وزن بوستر برای فرود کمتر بشه.
This is our view of the jettisoned hot stage. As we mentioned, this is a temporary fix to help reduce the weight of the booster, the super heavy booster. Future iterations will have a lighter weight integrated hot stage structure that won't need to be jettisoned. After we jettison that hot stage, the booster will begin.
اینجا تقریبا سرعت عمودی بوستر هم داره کم کم صفر میشه و کم کم شروع میکنه به طرف پایین برگشتن.
Coast for about 40 minutes or so up to an altitude of 214 kilometers. And after its coast phase, it will attempt a controlled re-entry, including a flip maneuver and a landing burn just before splashing down in the Indian Ocean. But as a reminder, we are not
Starship
attempting.
trajectory nominal.
Good news there. Trajectory is looking good for the ship, which is on the right-hand side of your screen. At this point in time, as you can see, we have no engines lit on the booster. It is coasting back toward the Gulf of Mexico for a water landing and ship under power of all 6 Raptor engines. There's 3 sea level and 3 vacuum Raptor engines that are lit, as we can see on your screen.
These views have been looking incredible. Super Heavy has been performing beautifully today. And you can hear the crowd is very excited about it. As a reminder, for Booster, the primary goal today is to do a landing burn and a splashdown in the water. And we are just about 30 seconds away from that landing burn.
این نما از بالای بوستر، جایی که حلقه هات استیجینگ قرار داشت.
From the forward portion of the booster, this is basically on top of the Super Heavy booster, where we have jettisoned that hot stage, so now we can see this incredible view of Earth as it's making its way back down to the Gulf of Mexico. Right now the booster is using the...
این نما از پایین بوستر داره به بالها نگاه میکنه که جدید بود واقعا. اگر دقت کنید از اینجا مقاومت هوا زیاد میشه و سرعت بوستر رو به شدت کم میکنه.
We will be igniting 13 engines.
تو نمای بالا سمت چپ میبینیم که بالها چقدر دارن تلاش میکنن که بوستر رو پایدار نگه دارن. در ارتفاع 1 کیلومتری بوستر موتورهاش رو روشن میکنه و وارد ابرها میشه. اینجا که از ابرها بیرون میاد و پهنه آب رو زیرش میبینیم واقعا نمای فوق العاده ای. نزدیک آب میشه اثر دود موتورها رو روی سطح دریا ببینه. همونجا چند ثانیه معلق میمونه و ارتفاعش رو حفظ میکنه و بالاخره موتورش رو خاموش میکنه و توی دریا چپه میشه. عجب سرنوشتی داشت بوستر این پرتاب. واقعا فوق العاده است. پرتاب بوستر در این پرتاب کاملا موفق بود.
Ship has entered terminal guidance.
That was absolutely incredible. The first successful splashdown of the Super Heavy booster. Loved seeing it just tip over into the water before losing that footage. Now the next milestone is coming up in about under a minute.
همین زمان شیپ به سرعت نزدیک مداری مورد نظر رسیده و سه تا موتورش رو خاموش میکنه و بعد از چند ثانیه موتورهای باقی مونده رو هم خاموش میکنه.
Today's test flight is not an orbital flight, but rather one that demonstrates the Starship's orbital capability. So right now we are under power with just the 3 center Raptor engines. Expecting those, and just there we could see that those have also successfully cut off.
FDS is saved.
What an incredible...
Nominal orbit insertion.
Oh, there's great news there. The call out we were hoping to hear. Amazing views once again from Starship.
اگر دقت کنیم اینجا یک مقدار داره دور خودش میچرخه که نمیدونیم نگران کننده هست یا نه. از اینجا 40 دقیقه مونده تا دوباره وارد جو بشه. سرعت رو تند میکنم ولی شما به ارتفاع دقت کنید.
through the extreme heat of
این زاویه داره از وسط موشک به یکی از بالهای بالای موشک نگاه میکنه.
with the spacecraft because it's re-entering at or around orbital velocity, which is about 8 kilometers per second or roughly 5 miles per second. At those speeds, the spacecraft moving through the atmosphere results in friction and creates a plasma field around the vehicle. That blanket of plasma distorts as
اینجا انیمیشن اتفاقی که در چند دقیقه آینده میفته رو نشون میده، ولی با یک اشکال جزئی که حالا بهش میرسه.
with a brief blackout in communication.
That's right, Kate. And Starlink's what's really allowing us to capture as much data as possible, especially through this reentry. Updated animation.
این نما از روی بال بالایی استارشیپ داره به بال پایینی نگاه میکنه. اگر بال بالایی حرکت کنه، این دوربین هم حرکت میکنه. اینکه زمین و ابرها دیده میشن واقعا فوق العاده است.
This one, and we're going to use
از اینجا تشکیل پلاسما زیر موشک رو میتونیم ببینیم.
And then also eventually to be able to see payloads once they're deployed. So a lot more exciting stuff coming up in the future. But right now we're getting closer to re-entry. You know, we're going to be moving at hypersonic speeds, more than 5 times the speed of sound. We're going to see that plasma start to build. So Kate, Jesse, excitement coming up.
Yeah, as you can see with that view on your screen again, high def brought to us by Starlink. We can see the plasma beginning to build as the ship is getting closer to the Earth's atmosphere. Now, let's talk a little bit about how Starlink will survive re-entry, hopefully, and control itself.
Exactly. We've been talking about this entire flight test. There's 18,000 hexagonal ceramic tiles surrounding the bottom portion or the Earth base.
اینجا از ارتفاع 100 کیلومتری که رسما مرز فضاست عبور میکنه و وارد جو میشه.
Now during atmospheric re-entry, the vehicle is going to see temperatures as high as 2,600 degrees Fahrenheit or over 1,400 degrees Celsius. So those tiles are there to help protect the vehicle from this extreme heat.
Yeah, and the flaps will help control it. Now, one noticeable difference I see immediately, those flaps are not moving as much as they were on Flight 3. So that is a great sign, right? We had unplanned loss of roll control on Flight 3, so we added some additional thrusters, and we can see that they're working well, and we have a much more stable view. So those flaps, there's 4 of them, 2 at the top and 2 at the bottom. They're made out of stainless steel, and yeah, they help steer the ship, which as we can see the plasma continuing to build. Now, if the ship survives re-entry, it will have to perform a flip maneuver as well as a landing burn. We saw this demonstrated in a couple of high altitude flight tests back in like 2020, 2021. Similarly,
temperatures increasing on the nose within expected ranges.
Great news there. It sounds like the temperatures that we are getting during this point, which again, we usually don't get during spaceflight because of this plasma. We're getting this live. This is a great news.
در حالت عادی این پلاسما ارتباط رادیویی رو مختل میکنه و تصاویری که از ورود فضاپیماها به جو میبینید بعد از فرود از دوربین‌ها برداشته میشن. این معجزه استارلینکه که میتونیم با کیفیت فول HD این تصاویر رو زنده ببینیم و اطلاعات رو هم میتونن دریافت کنن.
And gimbal or point to help flip the ship until those engines are pointing down so that it can land vertically using Raptor's thrust.
And as you can see, even from the beginning of the program, we've designed Starship to land on Mars where there are no runways or other humans to help out. We also want rapid reusability, so we're doing...
The vehicle is passing through 85 kilometers altitude. The flaps have control of the vehicle.
Great news. Flaps have control of the vehicle. That's exactly what we want to hear for this flight test.
Yeah.
Again, we are going to be doing a propulsive landing instead of a more traditional means like parachutes. And we are expecting re-entry to begin here in just about a minute. Re-entry, an awesome view that we have here.
Starship remains on a good entry trajectory.
This is the same view that we had when we first returned from the coast phase. Again, this is looking at the side of one of the flaps. It's incredible that literally at the bottom of this picture, we're basically looking through plasma, which is just absolutely mind-blowing.
Wild, very wild. Now we are expecting entry to begin here in about 30 seconds or so. Entry to splashdown is expected to last about 6 minutes long. And that flip maneuver should occur around about 10 minutes before splashdown. And such incredible views that we're
Starship
getting.
approaching peak heating region.
Great call outs there.
Yeah, these views are absolutely astounding.
Nose temperatures continue to rise within expected region.
And in your bottom right-hand corner, you can also follow along with the altitude of ship as it's returning back to Earth.
So once again, this view is basically looking down into the plasma blanket that is building up around the exterior of Starship. It is traveling, as you can see on your screen. You can look in the bottom right-hand corner and see how fast it's going, how high it is, as well as the general orientation. Again, we're seeing a lot more stability, a lot more control here on this flight, which is great. It shows that the iterations, the learning...
Starship is now in expected peak heating region.
All right, great news there, telling us that this is basically the hottest point.
طرفای ارتفاع 70 کیلومتری به حد اکثر دما میرسه و بعد از این دیگه دماش کم کم میاد پایین. هر لحظه‌ای که میگذره داره وارد لایه‌های غلیظ‌تر جو میشه و مقاومت هوا داره بیشتر میشه و سرعتش داره کمتر میشه. اونقدر پایدار داره وارد جو میشه که انگار تصویر ثابت شده. فلپ‌ها هم اصلا حرکت نمی‌کنن، یعنی اصلا نیازی نمیشه که حرکت کنن که باز هم نشون دهنده پایداری خیلی زیادشه که اتفاق خیلی مهمیه.
Yeah. Now this is another one of those moments that we have been waiting for. Right now the ship is currently re-entering the Earth's atmosphere, and by all looks and all call-outs that we're hearing on the net, it is doing pretty well. Now we do not plan to recover the spacecraft today, but rapid and reliable reusability is the ultimate goal.
Just pausing to just take in this incredible new and different view that we're seeing. We did get a similar view in Flight 3, but again, the vehicle did lose a little bit of its control, attitude control, and this is a very stable view. This is great. This is exactly what we want, and we are hearing that we're getting expected call-outs.
Absolutely.
Starship is seeing half a G of acceleration, remains on a good entry trajectory.
You know, it's incredible to look at this photo and wonder, wait, is it real? Is it frozen? You know, we can see so I was just going to say
Those temperatures have stopped increasing.
Oh, that is great news. The temperature is no longer building. But I was saying, like, we have a little bit of indication there. We can see that streaking that occurs and tells us that this is indeed a true view. So once again, we are looking basically through the plasma that is building up around the exterior of the ship.
And I still cannot get over that we are getting a live view of re-entry right now, live on your screen. Again, we've said this over and over, but all thanks to Starlink. We are able to use Starlink in space, which we're getting this incredible data. And not only just the data from the sensors, but getting live imagery of what is actually happening, which is great, which we've never been able to do live before.
Right. Now, just a quick future outlook here. So in about, let's see, at T plus about 1 hour and 2 minutes, we should hear a call out for entry transonic. That means that the ship is going near the speed of sound, And then about a minute after that, we'll hear another call out saying entry subsonic, meaning that the ship is going below the speed of sound. So these are all continued indications that the atmosphere, right, as the ship comes back down, it is getting through the more dense part of the atmosphere, and that atmosphere is helping to push against the vehicle, and those heat shields are protecting the vehicle during this high heat period.
Okay, Jesse, we're starting to see as the atmosphere gets denser, you're starting to see a few more particles make an appearance in the plasma there. You can see you're looking down at the aft end of the ship in the top left, and you're seeing essentially the flame build up as we go through re-entry. You've been hearing the call-outs. They're tracking things like temperatures in the nose cone, and those were right where we modeled them to be, which is really cool to see and to see in real time. But we're coming up, we're at about 67 kilometers in altitude. Our last signal with the ship on flight 3 was at 65, so we should be making it past that point shortly. Obviously, as you guys pointed out, we're in a much better control this time as we re-entered in the right attitude, and our flaps have been steering the way so far. Once we get through transonic, that's when you've got essentially
Raptor landing bird.
Different areas around the vehicle where the air is either moving faster or slower than the speed of sound. We'll eventually get to subsonic, which we have some experience with. We did in our suborbital campaign.
Start of Raptor chill.
And Starship will eventually get down to its terminal velocity as it's floating down to the water. That's just about 200 miles an hour or so. We are hearing that we're starting to chill some of the engines as we are, if we make it all the way down to the water, still going to attempt a landing burn, but still a ways to go.
اینجاها کم کم یه چیزایی کنده میشه و در جریان میسوزه و میره که واقعا باور نکردنیه.
What's expected to be the peak heating, but now we're going to start encountering increased pressures as the atmosphere gets thicker and thicker. So we're at 63 kilometers, so we've already made it farther than we did on our last flight when that last signal was coming at 65 kilometers.
از اینجا اوضاع این بال خراب میشه و آتیش دورش نگران کننده است واقعا. متاسفانه تصویری از وضعیت بقیه بالها نداریم. منتظر باشید، سابسکرایب هم بکنید که در روزهای آینده اگر تصاویر بهتری از این لحظات در اومد باز براش ویدیو میریم.
Starship remains on a good anti-trajectory.
Looking like we're still on a good trajectory. If you're seeing little camera moves, that's the flap moving as it continues to maintain the attitude of the vehicle as it re-enters. And I mean, not just camera views, but we've got sensors inside the ship. We've got those sensors down at the very aft end of the vehicle where we pointed out we had some intentionally missing tiles, where we've got some sensors looking at just how hot it's getting around there. We intentionally put those in essentially the least critical part of the heat shield, where if you had any kind of a breach, it wouldn't be great for reusability, but wouldn't be critical for actual making it through the re-entry into the landing. Kilometers. We're continuing to descend. Again, right now we are over the Indian Ocean. We're actually getting closer and closer to that expected splashdown point, which is just to the off the northwest corner of Australia. You keep an eye on our speed. The speed is dropping. We're hitting the thicker part of the atmosphere now. The speed's going to start dropping precipitously. We're going to start getting to transonic pretty soon, and then after that we'll get into subsonic, where we're moving less than the speed of sound. But wow, what a light show so far.
از اینجا پلاسما داره زیر بال نفوذ میکنه و کم کم شروع میکنه بال رو سوزوندن.
External temperatures are starting to come down.
Again, This camera view is looking right at one of the forward flaps. And we're strategically putting some cameras around the vehicle to just look at the...
کم کم قطعات بزرگ بال شروع میکنه کنده شدن.
Looks like we got the flap starting to come apart a little.
Yeah, it does appear that we have a little bit of burn through there. We can see pieces of the vehicle flying off. What a show it has been. It's been like watching Interstellar or something.
This is wild to see this, but the ship is still coming down, which is incredible to see.
How far can it go? That is the question.
Keep your eye on the altitude in the bottom right-hand corner. We're at 54 kilometers right now.
Now, ultimately, the data is the payload today. We've been saying it multiple times. Our teams are sitting, reviewing this data live, learning where the hot spots are. As you can see, there's an obvious hot spot there with the flap, and learning.
ناراحتم که از اینجا دیگه دوربین رو تغییر نمیدم. امیدوارم دوربین‌های دیگه وضعیت بهتری داشته باشن و تصاویرشون تو روزهای آینده در بیاد.
Ideally, we'd love to make it all the way down and perform that landing burn and flip maneuver, but we may not get that far today. We will see.
Again, this is a test, and we are gathering as much data as possible, visual data as well, which we can see here. We are getting a lot of debris covering the camera on your screen, but we can still see some of those sparks and flames from that high heat as ship is making its way back down to Earth.
Ship now at 50 kilometers and closing. The good news is we still got, looks like that camera lens just cracked. It's safe to say ship's getting a little beat up, but that's to be expected on a test flight. We are still learning how to improve the ship for total survival and recovery of the high heat reentry.
I'm honestly impressed that we're still getting this live view despite how much debris is coming off of this flap right now.
The fact that we've got it is good news.
اینجا یه لحظه تصویر قطع شد که فکر کردیم تموم شد. غافل از اینکه اون پایین داره هنوز سرعت و ارتفاع تغییر میکنه. پس استارشیپ هنوز زنده است.
Look at that, it's back.
We are still going.
And the teams here at SpaceX are excited, as you can tell by the cheering behind us. There's still a sizable crowd here at Mission Control Center, Hawthorne.
A splashdown is expected in just about 4 minutes from now. We're still moving. We still have live views. Starlink is doing an incredible
approaching
job.
maximum anti-dynamic pressure. External temperatures are dropping.
در ارتفاع 45 کیلومتری به حد اکثر فشار دینامیکی رسید، ولی معلوم نبود که چقدر از موشک باقی مونده.
The ship is left. We can't really tell. We can still see some of that particulate coming off. And unfortunately, we do have a cracked camera lens. But for any photographers out there and videographers, we know that's part of the gig sometimes.
Yeah, and you can see that the speed is rapidly slowing down. That's actually really great news for us. We want the vehicle to be slowing down before it splashes down into the ocean. That'll help set us up for that flip maneuver, engines first down into the water.
Exactly. So we have seen this flip maneuver demonstrated on previous high altitude flight tests like serial number 8. Oh, more views. Or excuse, I should say more light coming through the view that we have through that cracked and dirtied lens there. But yeah, so we're hoping that this flip maneuver, that we can pull it off as soon as we get those views back. If we can get them, if the ship is still around, we will bring it back to you.
Vehicle has passed maximum dynamic pressure.
That is great news. Maximum dynamic pressure being the moment in which the vehicle experiences the greatest amount of aerodynamic pressure. Speed still dropping. We're now at 37 kilometers above the ocean. Just like Flight 3, we are targeting a splashdown in the water in the Indian Ocean.
We don't have a live view right now, but because we're still getting data and telemetry, that does tell us that ship is still doing okay, at least. There, we got that live view back. The crowd very excited to see that view. despite not being able to see very much.
The fact that it's there.
اینجا یه حاله از بال رو داریم میبینیم که حالا حرکت میکنه معلوم میشه.
And collecting data, continuing to collect data as we get closer and closer to Earth.
Yes, now 30 kilometers, now 29 above the Indian
Starship is at
Ocean.
30 kilometers altitude, Mach 2.
Sounds like vehicle.
اینجا دماغه میره پایین و به نظر میرسه که کنترلش رو از دست داده، ولی دوباره دماغه رو میاره بالا و معلوم میشه که هنوز کنترل داره.
Might. I thought maybe it might clear up. It is a little bit. Now at T plus 1 hour, 3 minutes and 13 seconds into Starship Flight 4, hoping that the ship can hang on. It's probably potentially hanging on by a couple of bolts and threads, but it's still going, and that is excellent news.
That deceleration is looking incredible. We're about to go under 1,000 kilometers per hour.
Yeah.
Starship
And-
is at 20 kilometers altitude.
Now, keep in mind that even though we can't see anything, the data itself is what we really
Starship
are
is subsonic.
subsonic. They're telling us it's traveling below the speed of sound.
اینجا حرکت بال رو میبینیم. با وجود اینکه اینجاها سرعت زیر صوته ولی هنوز داره جرقه میزنه و هنوز هم کنترل داره و به مسیر ادامه میده که واقعا عجیب و فوق العاده است.
This is a nail biter. But we are, unfortunately, we can't see through the lens, but we're still getting the feed. Starship is now 11 kilometers over the ocean. All this data is incredibly important. Even if, it breaks up right now. Okay, we can see that flap actuating through the glass.
Starship is passing through 10 kilometers altitude.
Okay, the next milestone will be initiation of the flip maneuver and landing burn. Keep an eye on the bottom right corner of your screen for those 3 center engines to relight. They will gimbal or angle so that the ship flips itself back up vertical and hopefully lands in a vertical position.
And the crowd is very excited to get this view of that flap still
Starship
maneuvering.
is passing through 5 kilometers altitude.
This is incredible. Getting very close to splashdown.
These fireflies are such a good sign of life right now. We wish we could see more, but we'll take it.
Starship is at 2 kilometers altitude, terminal lost.
Landing beam startup for Starship.
اون پایین سمت راست نشون نمیده که موتورها روشن شدن، ولی از اینکه بالها روشن میشن میشه فهمید که موتورها روشن شدن.
Landing bird startup.
یه چیزایی از آب میبینیم و دیگه تصویر قطع میشه. به نظر میرسه تونسته نرقی آب فرود بیاد.
Landing burn shutdown.
The landing bird shutdown was commanded.
عجب پرتابی بود و عجب نتیجه‌ای. همه خوشحالن و های فایو میزنن. بچه ایلان ماسک هم اون پایین بر خودش خوشحال.
Its first ever landing bird. From South Texas to the other side.
And since Starship got a little bit toasty from that extreme heat of reentry, and we've got our very own Starship right here, let's have a toast of our own.
I've been waiting all morning for this.
Okay, may I?
Light me up.
آخرش هم با فندک استارشیپ مارشمالو روشن کردن و لذتش رو بردن. این ویدیو فقط مرور پخش زنده این پرتاب بود. یه ویدیو دیگه هم خواهیم داشت درباره وضعیت استار بیس و جزئیات این پرتاب با تصاویر و اطلاعات جدیدی که از این پرتاب میاد بیرون. منتظر اون ویدیو هم باش. ممنون از توجهت و ممنون از وقتی که گذاشتی.
Tests. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.